So let's get into it. We're gonna move on to our main review, which is Hellboy. Let's take a listen to a clip.
What are we, trick-or-treating or hunting giants?
Tradition to honor the brave huntsmen who've come before.
And the pig stickers?
Another tradition used by giant slayers throughout the ages. With a few modern modifications, of course. 5 times as potent as an electric chair. Not enough to kill a giant, mind you, but still quite handy in subduing the creatures. Would you care for one?
That's all right. I got traditions of my own. Oh, God. I don't have to wear the hat, do I?
No. We're very well aware of your distaste for horns.
That was a hell of a clip, wasn't it?
We're fucking scratching that.
No, we're not.
Redo it.
No, we're keeping it. All right, Hellboy.
Fucking hate you.
Directed by Neil Marshall, written by Andrew
10 people?
Cosby and Mike Mignola. Nope, not very many people.
Mike Mignola, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wait. Oh, sorry. Based on the Dark Horse comic book.
By him, but he didn't write
Right.
this.
Andrew Cosby is the writer.
Okay.
And this is starring Ron Perlman. I'm just kidding. This is David Harbour.
Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, Mila Jovovich, Ian McShane, and Sasha Lane, my precious American honey. What are you doing in here?
What is he
Where
doing?
is she getting these weird roles? It's strange. Anyways, the synopsis for this is based on the graphic novels by Mike Mignola, Hellboy, caught between the worlds of the supernatural and the human, battles. Oh, sorry, this is poorly structured. There's like 80 commas in this. All right, Hellboy. All right, by the comic Hellboy. Caught between the worlds of supernatural and human battles, an ancient sorceress bent on revenge. Wait a second. Yeah, this synopsis is grammatically incorrect. Because they do comma Hellboy comma, but that
Comma Hellboy comma?
that's to tell you the name of the comic.
Yeah. All right, let's bring them up
Oh, no,
real
no,
quick.
no,
Let's call them up real
It's
quick.
right. It's right. I think it's right. It's really hard to
We spent the
understand.
review just fucking trying to fix his sentence.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably more substance in that synopsis than there is in the movie. What did you guys think? All right, well, let's
You
first
didn't
talk.
read the tagline. Hellboy, demons have demons too.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean, that's serious. I'm looking at it right now.
Insert crickets
Demons have
here.
demons too. Can I go first?
Who's seen the Del Toro Hellboys here?
I've seen the first
I
one.
have.
I've never seen the second one. I heard.
I have
the
no
second
interest.
one's good.
I have no interest in Hellboy. Never did. Never watched them. And this is my first introduction to Hellboy.
All right, Harvey, you drop us.
Yeah, let's get into it,
let us know,
Harvey.
man.
You're the token Hellboy guy here.
Yeah, the Hellboy fan.
I wouldn't say that at all.
I started reading Seeds of Destruction. I've never finished it though. I've only started reading.
Steve's the token Hellboy.
Yeah, if he's, I don't know.
Oh, you haven't read any of them?
No, I haven't read any
I
of them.
thought you. Never mind.
Hell,
Fuck, Harvey ain't got time to be reading Hellboy comics.
Yeah, I mean, I heard there's some of the best books in the industry.
Where?
I got student loans to pay. I'm not out here reading Hellboy.
I'm not out here reading books.
I got
and shit. I
bills.
got bills to pay.
So Hellboy, I would say this movie begins with I'm not exactly sure who's telling the story.
Ian McShane.
Was it Ian McShane?
Yeah.
Yes, Ian McShane.
His fucking voice, man.
Yeah, it was Ian McShane. He was telling a story about the Blood Queen, who's played by Mila Jovovich.
I'm glad she's getting work.
Yeah. The Blood Queen had a war with Prince or no King. What's that fucking
King
name?
Arthur?
King Arthur.
Prince who?
I always forget that. Yeah.
Prince Lancelot, of course.
The Blood Queen had a war with King Arthur.
Merlin was there.
And and Merlin, everyone's involved. And he's sort of telling the history of the things that happened. Basically, the war wasn't going very well for King Arthur, of course, because the Blood Queen has all of this sort of sorcery, and she's created a sort of plague that has destroyed half of England. So they meet to talk about terms, I suppose, terms of surrender, something like that. And King Arthur actually ambushes the Blood Queen, and he chops up her body and sends her limbs to different corners of England so that they may never be brought together again.
I just have a question. How did that happen? How did she get like tricked? Because I feel like if she's been that like smart this whole time, how did that happen?
Yeah,
They're the ones that got tricked. You could have at least burned her. I mean, why the fuck you keeping her in large
She can't
chunks?
die. She
why
can't
didn't they
die.
just like grind her up in something? But yeah, they could have done a lot of
It was
things.
like the
They could've
worst
burned-
way to dispose of a body.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't want ever to come back to life.
Why,
again.
like in England, why not send it like they got ships and shit? They could have put it.
Yeah, England's
Somewhere.
the size of like Tennessee. I don't
Yeah.
understand why they.
But
Hey, it's because of the movie, all right? They needed to somehow make all this convenient for the character to get through.
anyway, we get this history, and then we catch up with Hellboy. Hellboy is searching for an agent that went rogue. I don't understand why this even really comes into play, but he is in Mexico searching for an agent that went rogue. Turns out the agent is a vampire, and he is forced to kill him. And I suppose that's the demons that they're talking about. So Hellboy is feeling very down about that, but then he gets a call from England. Basically, his dad wants him to go to England because they're having some issues, like the paranormal branch of like the equivalent of their organization is having trouble in England with some things, and they want Hellboy to come.
You know, you sound like a person trying to try to tell someone about their dream. Like it's not making any sense to me right now.
This movie feels like that.
There's so much that happens. Like the plot doesn't become very apparent, at least until very later. But anyway, eventually the Blood Queen, it becomes a war between Blood Queen and Hellboy. Essentially, it finally gets there, and there's a lot to say about this movie. Like, I sound very confusing, but this movie like jumps around a lot. It jumps around from present to past, and it jumps around from
Reality.
Like
Everywhere. It honestly, it makes it seem like everyone who's watching this has read Hellboy.
Yeah.
Because what it does, all right, this is what it does. This is exactly what it does. It reminds us of a movie we watched last year. Remember Stephen King's The Dark Tower?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it does. It just throws plot points at you, expecting that you've read all the books, so you kind of get what's happening. It's like, you're not supposed to do that as an introductory to a superhero.
Yeah.
Especially someone that's not that popular.
Yeah. From what I've read, this is supposed to be sort of like a reboot, and it's like the worst introduction to like a franchise character I've ever seen, because you get no sense of who this character is. You get like his backstory at like maybe 45 minutes into the movie, and it like doesn't tell you anything. Like, I think David Harbour was okay as Hellboy. He was like somewhat like charismatic and kind of funny, but that shit was written terribly. Like, his character had he had nothing. He had no character. He had no personality. He had no sort of development or arc at all. No history, really. Like, no sort of foundation to really give a fuck about his character about. And the movie itself is much like that. It jumps around. It's like super awkward and clumsy. It's horribly edited, like horribly. It looks like a fucking sci-fi TV show. The
CGI
animation,
is horrible.
The CGI looks like 2002 shit. Like
It looked like Scorpion King.
like
like
Underworld.
that.
Yeah, the Underworld. It's like on par with like the Underworld movie that I watched like a few weeks ago. There's like weird ass ADR in this that just, God, that shit sounds bad.
Especially with Hellboy, yeah.
Sasha
Like,
Lane,
are his lips moving?
Precious Sasha Lane.
My precious American honey. Yeah, her
I
British
like her
accent
too.
was brutal.
Shit was
Horrible.
trash. That's the worst English
brutal.
accent
All right.
I've ever heard in my
I
life.
watch a lot of fucking English.
I was like,
I
why'd
watch
they
a
do this
lot
to you,
of
baby? Why'd you let them do this to you?
Yeah, I just watched her in a like Cameron Post movie. And I was like,
Dude,
oh, you're doing good things.
She's-
Whoops.
I like her a lot, and God, that shit was bad.
Dude, everyone's accent was off.
I
There
could
were
do
the-
better
the,
English
She
accent
got
than
paid though, all right?
What is it? Daniel Day Kim? Is that the Asian actor that plays the
Asian Scarface.
yeah? He fucking
It's weird. Yeah, he was well, I don't even remember much about him. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this movie either. As it sounds from all of us.
Oh no, actually, I love the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Well, none of that's true.
no, it was fucking
I mean,
bored.
yeah, I mean the Rotten Tomatoes score is 13%, and I really didn't want to watch this movie, guys, but I'm not going to hold it to you.
I mean, we make mistakes.
Yeah, we make huge mistakes sometimes irreversible mistakes.
Can't get that time back.
Fuckers. Yeah, this movie was rough, man. this is my very first AMC A-list experience, and I'm not.
What an experience it
Yeah,
was.
I was just like, oh fuck. I was like, well, good thing I'm comfortable, I guess. This very rarely happens, and I mean rarely, maybe once a year, where I'm in a movie, and I just start looking at Instagram.
Yeah.
I won't do that if there's people around me, but like there was nobody sitting within reach of me.
It was the same thing. I didn't have much people around me, so there was one point in the movie.
I would check back in, like kind of know the plot points as what's happening, but for the most part, I like halfway through, I'm being honest here, I checked the fuck out. It was just incoherently boring. There's a pattern here. Just stop with the King Arthur shit. Just fucking stop with it.
It was so difficult to know what was happening. Like, it was confusing as fuck.
I swear to God, next movie where King Arthur and Merlin, the fucking legend of that, comes back.
Someone with dyslexia fucking edited this.
I'm walking out.
Like, hyper dyslexia.
Yeah.
It made no sense. It just jumped around, and it didn't explain anything. It just brought up things as if you should know what they fucking are.
Should I watch the Del Toro ones? Because this is left.
I think those are actually solid movies. I think those are solid movies, and they do much.
This movie was like
much more coherent.
Don't worry, the movie sucks, but we're gonna make up for it with a cool music action montage. Did not work. Did not work. And all of them. Anytime they're fighting and some rock music came on.
I think the only one that I thought that was an interesting fight sequence was the giant sequence. I thought that could have been. I mean, it could have been better.
It was okay.
But it was okay.
It was
it still
engaging
looked
enough.
ugly though.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the only scene that had
The last scene was like, I was like, oh, is this a good action scene at the very end of the movie? And then I was like, this wasn't good.
No, it wasn't good. I think the one thing I did like is, I mean, I agree with all you guys. This movie is so fucking boring. That's one word that just sticks in my head. Boring.
I mean, it's Hellboy. How do you make the concept like that super boring?
Yeah, like I mean, like it's like Guillermo del Toro like understood the concept of like he really like put a flair to it and made it. I don't know, like if you watch the first Hellboy with Guillermo del Toro, like that has just so much character and like all the characters kind of spring to life. Where this is just like everything is just bland and everyone's a shitty fucking accent, and it's just like it's still nothing.
Poor Sasha.
Like
who was her character even? Like they just introduced her. I'm like, wait, what the fuck is happening?
Apparently, we're supposed to know who the fuck she is.
She just comes out of nowhere. Like he shows up at her house or some shit.
Yeah, it's just like
and
it's like, oh yeah, don't you remember from like, dude? That's the whole movie. Like,
we don't
reference shit that didn't happen in the movie, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they like reference like it's like written. They're like talking about shit. And you're like, wait, who is this person? And then they explain it like 20 minutes.
It's like
later.
if you're hanging out with a bunch of people you don't know well, and you're trying to like they're talking about people,
together all this shit,
and you're like, oh, so he dates him, like, but they're not telling you this. You're just kind of like gathering your context clues together.
This movie is a giant exposition dump. Like it's just telling you. It doesn't show you anything about the world. It just tells you, and it just jumps erratically from scene to scene to scene. I think one of the dumbest parts is a critical moment in the film where like they meet the bad guy for the first time and something happens, and then it cuts to like a random scene. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where they meet another character, like something critical happens at the tree. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And then it cuts. It's just like, oh wow, they're in the next fucking scene now, and it just like there's no stakes in this.
And also,
movie.
when Hellboy gets hurt, someone wrote the line, "That's gonna hurt tomorrow." What are you doing in 2019? A 1980s
this
joke?
Shit was paced like really poorly too. I think there were some moments that I think could have been good, like when he like gets like I don't know, fucking summoned by the Baba Yaga.
That was a cool sequence.
I think it was like. I think it looked cool, and it was like starting to like feel like it was going somewhere, especially towards like the conflict at the end. But it was just like paced really fucking weird, and then it just sort of fizzled out, and nothing really happened with that.
Nothing happened with that plot point. It just comes up and then just disappears.
Yeah, like what was the point of adding that if it like there was no payoff to that at all? And it was like probably the coolest thing I think in the movie, except for when he gets like his horns and shit, and then he jumps out of the
yeah,
dragon.
It's cool, but I mean you don't really
that
get a payoff either.
Yeah, it just looked horribly. It looked horrible and it wasn't done very well, but I think like the evil fucking Hellboy like idea is pretty cool.
How do you guys feel about the because I wasn't expecting this, and I realized this movie's rated R once I watched kind of like the sequence at the end
For
where
what?
everyone was getting fucking massacred.
I mean,
I was like, oh, I forgot.
there were
this
some
movie's-
other scenes where there was blood and shit.
No, but this was like people getting fucking like grotesquely fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
And
I
was
mean, if
just
the
like,
movie had more of
is-
that, it was a contained small story.
yeah, but it's so weird because it came out of nowhere. Like, I don't know. Like, I wasn't expecting that. It was like, it's just, this movie's just jarring.
That's also kind of a weird thing to do.
What?
Because like when they fuck up people like on such a massive scale like that, you're like, have you won really?
Yeah.
Because like at least with the Avengers and shit, they don't show the people die, so you're like, okay, the Avengers win at the end. But with this, it's kind of
Like,
like
mad people
like
died.
like so many people died.
A lot
Like,
of
is this a
people
win
died.
still? Is this a win? People's fucking faces were melting off and shit.
I think the creature design at that point of the film was super interesting. I think if you had more of that attention and care throughout the whole film in terms of creature design and world design, I think it could have been better than what we got. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's
No more
parts
King Arthur shit.
that's the thing. There's parts in this film that you're like, oh wow, that's cool, but it's like only like a percentage, like such a small percentage that it's just it doesn't do anything. Still, it's like you're just sitting there like, oh, that's a cool idea.
I think
Does nothing with it.
Del Toro also doesn't. He uses CGI, but he doesn't rely on it that heavily. I think a lot of he obviously uses like a lot of makeup and prosthetics and
Yeah,
shit
a
like
lot
that.
of production
This
design,
like just
too.
had straight up CGI characters, and they didn't look good. And
I kind
they
of want to
also
watch
weren't
the
written
Del
well.
Toro ones just to see what I like. Just to see what Hellboy could be, because this was
People
my
consider
only.
those like people love that shit. It's
Yeah,
surprising
yeah.
that them film had a fucking sequel on top
I
of
think
that.
they're solid movies for sure.
This movie kind of goes back to a conversation I had with you, Steve, where it's just me ranting off. You brought up the new Star Wars trailer, and
Oh yeah.
my thing with a lot of the new like films, big franchises, especially Star Wars, not especially Star Wars, sorry, Star Wars included. Star Wars isn't the huge offender of it, but it does play a part in this. Is where these movies are never going to meet criteria for me to be moved by, or just walk out with like, oh, that was fucking fun, or that was amazing. You know, it's because there's a lot of like of just jumping around inside of a story with multiple stories going on. And I just don't think it's possible to, when you do that, to tie it all together. I just don't see it as possible.
I mean, like, I understand where you're coming from. I'm not gonna argue that.
And like this movie does it on a terribly huge scale.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I think Star Wars.
I mean, Star Wars is well done.
It's well done. So it's like regardless of what you
but
get.
like if it, I don't know, man. I just like me a contained story with.
Yeah. Sometimes I enjoy those like little smaller stories.
Yeah, but like I think the reason like why I liked Infinity War so much is because it was literally just like everyone contained, pinned against Thanos, right? And it was just the whole time it was us against Thanos, and it wasn't like, all right, so this is happening, but first let me tell you about this, and then we're gonna sidetrack over here to introduce you to this character. And then let's meet in the middle, and then let's branch off again. Like, it doesn't do any of that. It's just kind of contained. And yeah, this movie's a terrible offender of that.
For what I found out is that the director Neil Marshall,
Is an idiot?
He's butting heads with the producer. This whole thing is actually like, apparently there was a lot of problems
I heard
on
about
set,
that.
like a lot of problems. Like
I read some shit about
it got
David Harbour walking off or something like that too.
yeah, because the producer or whoever was like running, like
Nobody
basically-
wants to be in this movie.
they're like he was at that point he was just like controlling everything he did. Like he was just like he controlled like how the way like certain things were designed in the film, like shit that he has no involvement in, and he's getting in the way of it, saying like, no, I think it should be designed this way, and he would have final say. Like apparently there was like confliction with the producer and Neil Marshall to the point where it was just affecting everyone. Like they were fighting all the time, which is crazy. And he didn't get final cut in this film because apparently there's a lot of other shit they probably shot that they didn't get to put in. But I don't think it would have saved it regardless, even if he did get final cut. I think this movie is just it's boring. It's so weird to say a movie's jarring but yet boring because it's trying to keep you engaged, but the things they're showing you, it's not interesting at all. And every time they introduce you to an interesting concept, it just kind of goes away in favor of just like really conventional, very just like shit we've seen before. I'm definitely not going to rewatch this. I didn't have hopes for it, but I didn't have high hopes coming into this. But I like to be positive when it comes to stuff like this. Maybe I was like, oh, maybe this can be like that, random fucking movie of 2019 that I'm like, oh, it was amazing. It's not.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I do like some of Neil Marshall's movies. I really like The Descent. That's like one of my pastimes. And
he did Doomsday. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I actually liked Doomsday is probably a pretty polarizing movie. I do like Doomsday a lot.
I haven't seen that shit in forever.
But yeah, this wasn't it. This ain't it.
Nope. Sorry. Come
Not at
again.
all.
Try again.
Steve, what do you rate this bad?
This shit was.
I'm getting 1.
He loved it.
Oh, dude, it's like I want to give it more because of concept, but like real shit, like it's like nothing's interesting,
Yeah.
It's like I'm not gonna remember this movie. I completely forgot I watched it the other day. I left the theater and I was like, what I watched?
I watched it today. And let me tell you, it was not a great way to spend my morning. Yeah, I'm at a 1 star too. Very light 1 star. Almost a half star, but not quite a half star. It's almost that bad though. What about you, Harvey?
I'm at a 1 too. I think that
It could be top 5 worst of the year.
I was able to get something. It's not completely incoherent, but it's nearly there. This shit's real bad.
Now, I almost walked out, but I didn't want to.
I wanted to walk out too.
But I was like, "Fuck! What if I don't want to lie to them. I don't want to be."
I would have just told y'all that I walked out.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I was like, you know what? I counted my clock. There was 40 minutes left, and I was like, I'm gonna browse Instagram for 40 minutes while checking in and out of the movie. It really is that bad, dude. I'm not into it, obviously.